Yo, good day, and welcome to another episode of Road FS Detail Memoirs. I'm telling you, man, wipe the sleep off your eyes, get ready to go. Rod and I are super excited, and actually, Rod's been getting prepared.
I've been really excited. I've been studying. I've been looking at my Malaysian language, thinking out. So here's my attempt at it. I'm gonna say hello in Malay. It's hello.
Woohoo!
That's it. It took me a week to learn that, but
Rod is now bilingual.
I'm bilingual now. So yeah. How you doing? Our guest is Markus Parsley. If you haven't figured that out already, how are you doing?
I am absolutely better than I ever could deserve, I'm sure.
Yeah,
that's good, man. Well, you and Joel got on a plane. Made a big, kind of a splash about going to Malaysia, and you guys have been there working on some pretty cool things. You guys had a live last night at 10 p.m. Eastern time, and I missed that. I was on the boat with my kids, but so we're super excited to hear what you and Joel have been working on.
Okay. Well, we've been here. Tomorrow will be the second week. We have decided as a company, been looking at things, well, since COVID hit, travel and everything has become so problematic. Fuel prices, airline tickets, you name it. And so we had a lot of folks missing out on our trainings that wanted to come. Okay. And so we thought about all the different ways of going about things, and we talked to some of our counterparts, and nobody has really developed an online platform for what we do, as detailers or in the detail world. You've got some online videos, you've got some other things out there, but there's no one whole interactive scenario. And Joel and Jeff looked at what that would cost to do in the US and decided it would be a lot cheaper, since our mothership has studios, plus you have all the engineers and scientists and everybody at your disposal. It would be more or less expensive for us to fly here, use their expertise with our ideas, combine the two, and along with the feedback that we've gotten over the last 18 months, and put it into play. And that idea was launched about 6 weeks ago, and here we are wrapping up the second week. Of course, we have probably a week or two of editing and that, but we won't be here for that. We can do that, through email. But yeah, they've got 2 weeks of footage. A pretty neat setup of how it's going to work. It should make things very affordable for anybody, whether they're IGL or not. We try to be open and inclusive. Granted, we're using our products and promoting will be with our new products, but we've got a whole system laid out, to keep people trained up and be able to come back. I mean, it's set up in module form. So they'll have an overview. They'll have different modules that they'll have to go through and test through. And then there'll be a final wrap up for them on each topic. They can do that at their own pace, although we are going to time them out. We haven't decided exactly what the time frame is going to be for them. We'll figure that out. But yeah, it should be.
So let me make sure I understand. So somebody can go and get like a certification through an online form, and you guys are doing a lot of, there's a lot to unpack. When we talked about having you on the show, I was like, oh man, we could go for probably 2 or 3 episodes, because there's been so many things that have come out in the last couple of years that you guys are putting out. I mean, I see a lot of the posts of the stuff that are bare metals, more of the farm machinery, which are the same products, it's just a different market. So are you talking about training on all levels, or is this just a specific group?
No, we're talking about training on all levels now that we have our baseline, if you will. Yep. We're actually working with a professional company to take all of this footage that we've got and that we've broken up, and they're going to put it into their online college type format.
Yeah.
And so guys will be able to come on from as they say, A to Z, and and learn and ongoing knowledge. And this is going to be a great way for us to pass on new things and keep guys up to speed. So there shouldn't be any excuses.
The thing that's intriguing to me about this is, especially when you look at what's happened over the last 2 years globally, right? It has forced people to become innovative in their business, how they bring products to market, how they educate people. And, you know, this is really, it is unique, right? And you guys are going, all right, we're going to figure out a way to get not only our product in the hands of the guys that we want using it, but we're going to give them a mechanism where they can be educated, where they can get the skills. And as importantly, you guys have put in place a way for them to be a certified installer, certified representative. So you guys are controlling the experience of, you know, for those guys as well as the end user. And I love that kind of innovation.
It, you know, on the surface, when the idea first popped up, you think that it's going to be something pretty simple. Oh, we ought to be able to just, you know, set up
no.
And you start thinking about, wow, you've got a lot of stuff. You've got to, you know, because we have our Lexington training facility that's more successful than we thought, not as successful as we hoped, but more successful than we expected during the current world conditions. And no, that was I felt like I had diapers on when that idea was first, you know, when the light bulb first went off. I didn't realize just how in depth what all's involved, you know, the production side to the organization side, and then the cost involved is it's to coin Joel, cheap, you know, and so but I think the end result is not going to be just a good experience for our installers, but it's going to be a great way, like you mentioned, not necessarily to control so much, but to really have good feedback and also be able to monitor the installer base as to, okay, Joe Blow over yonder is having an issue.
Yeah.
Let's see why. Hey, have you done anything? You know, this one would have cost you about nothing or whatever the case is for that particular module, and it was suggested to you. You know, now you're calling somebody at 2 a.m. We're gonna help you out, but once we get through the sticky point you're at, my friend, we strongly recommend that you get this taken care of. Now, we do have our industrial products that we are not going to allow people to get their hands on unless they've taken the modules or come to Lexington.
Right. That's one of the things I was going to talk to you about. Some of those industrial products, they're a stronger, different chemical mixture. I mean, when you're talking about bare metal coating, this isn't something that's going to wash off. This is something that's got a higher chemical content. It's a completely different mixture. And so that's where I think those certifications are a must. I mean, a lot of times I think people are they think of certification in a light term, like, oh, you know, I'm certified to use IGL's prep, you know, and it's like, well, okay, it's isopropyl alcohol and it's yellow, but you don't need to be certified to use isopropyl alcohol. You need to know what you're doing. But for those industrial coatings, you do. They're a different animal. So what kind of intensive training do you put people through on those?
Well, the first thing that we hammer home hard is PPE. Not from a safety point, but from a compliance point. When you start playing with real chemicals, there are real consequences, not just for you and the environment and whatever it is you're working on, but there's real liability involved. So we want to make sure that we get all the data out to folks. We want their signature, that they have received said data, and they have a fairly comprehensive idea of what's going on. so that there's no repercussions back this way, but also so that they have a better experience. The amount of, and like I said, and I'll stress it, and I stress it in all the classes, PPE is important, extremely important for them as people, but it's more important for them as business people if somebody comes walking through the door and flashing a badge at them.
Right. Yeah. I don't think people realize when they start a company, because it is a fairly low barrier to entry to start a detailing company. People believe, right, but it's not. You have to have safety data sheets. I mean, that's one of the reasons in our software we stress that you can house those safety data sheets in the software so that you constantly always have them. I'm amazed at how many people I talk to that don't even understand that they have to have those on file. I mean, if you're a mobile person and you're out in the field and you don't have those safety data sheets, you're putting yourself at a real liability, because if somebody asks you, if you have not just somebody with a badge, but if you have a vehicle owner, a customer that comes up and says, hey, what's in that chemical that you're using in my driveway? You want to be able to show them what you have. This is what's in it. This is how you deal with it. It's inert material. It's water soluble. All that you need to have. You need to understand what you're putting on. So that's why I really, I mean, I like the training center in Lexington because it's beautiful and it's cool and all that stuff. But this is intriguing from the standpoint that you can reach higher numbers of people that don't have to travel.
Right.
So
that was the whole. Joel we've been here 2 weeks, and it's very unfortunate. But Joel has, in the U.S. market, we haven't released any of the industrial products to anyone unless they've come to Lexington to date.
Yeah.
That's not the case in all the other countries. And we've been inundated with people that are just struggling like crazy. The products aren't difficult. The systems aren't difficult. And it's not hard to comply. You just have to know what you're doing. And if you don't know, you don't know. It doesn't make you a bone. It just means you don't know. And it's been almost sad to watch some of the guys that have destroyed their reputations. One guy potentially his business in Europe, just because of ignorance, and I don't mean that in a slighting way at all. We've tried our best, guy, and ultimately we ask him, do you have a good insurance carrier? You're going to need it, and an attorney.
Yep.
And he said, gosh, I wish I would, wish I'd known. Do you have the time to train? I'm like, dude, it's no,
Yeah, that's the thing is I think people realize they realize they need to learn about general business, but that is like the least likely thing. It's funny because we have tons of episodes of people just talking about business, and I would say they're probably the least watched, which is ironic because they should be the ones that are the most watched. It's a simple checklist. You have to have insurance. You have to have a business license in the state or country that you're in and do all of the compliance things up front. And then you're covered, because mistakes happen. Things happen. I've worked in a number of shops where things happen. I worked in a shop where a guy scraped the side of a car. I know of a friend of mine that took a Mercedes in for an oil change. They didn't put the drain plug in, blew the motor up. I mean, things happen. Even to people that are trained and understand stuff, there can be a situation where, a chemical does something weird to a material. You got to understand what you're dealing with and how to dilute that chemical right off the bat. But at the end of the day, you got to cover your own ass. And if you don't think you have to have insurance, that's like 101. That's basic. That's before you touch your first car, truck, van, tractor, plane. Doesn't matter what you're working on. You got to have yourself covered.
I feel almost like you may have been privy to our first video.
Yeah, I can imagine.
What I think, a lot of business owners, especially detailer business owners that are trying to use coatings, right? They're like, oh, I just can use IGL or whatever other coating, and I can figure it out, right? And I'm not discounting that they can't do that, but it doesn't take into fact, the system and the chemicals underlying and the process, right? And if you can leverage that experience, not only are you going to be better with whatever product you're using, you're going to provide a better product and experience for your customer and diminish the liability of messing something up.
That's, that's so key. We've got so many people, and many, including me, when, I was retired from one business and turned a hobby into a job, into a business. I was in business 18 months before I thought, you know what, I might ought to go get legal. Maybe I should,
Yeah.
What am I doing here? If I make a mistake, it's gonna come back on me and the guys that I now have employed, at the time paying under the table.
Yeah.
And you get away with that. You can fly under the radar for a bit, but ultimately it will come back. If it doesn't, you've just been graced or blind. But now we're talking about an industrial level. So you make a faux pas on a guy's $30 million leer, and you've got a real issue, or you're in a hangar, or you're at a rail yard or a shipyard, or we just left the largest crane manufacturer on the planet here in Malaysia. It's got plants all over the place, and we were blessed to be able to go in and be a part of the presentation with the mothership that was making it here, and just saw the magnitude of what was going on. And they move 15 to 20 of those cranes a month at 10 million plus per crane.
Yeah. Holy Hannah.
Yeah. 9 of the, let's see, that particular place, 9 out of 10 of the largest buildings on the planet have been built with their cranes. So
that's amazing. I think that people don't realize the magnitude of it's really easy to just say that I just correct paint or I just put this coating on this thing, but you got to take into account that sometimes you're not just working on something that like you're talking about. It's a $10 million crane. There's a famous story that Bob Phillips tells about stepping into a hangar, and they're up there this week in Monterey, and stepping into a hangar, and they got this kind of a maroon Ferrari, and they started putting something on the paint, and all of a sudden the paint turned pink. And then the guy came in and told him and reminded him, this is a 1-of-1 Ferrari from the 60s. You can't put a price tag on this, and if that finish is ruined, that you're done, and so pretty soon the hangar door shut, and the chemists are all hanging around, and they're all praying and crossing their fingers, toes, arms, and legs, and sacrificing children to find out if they can get it to come back to life. And it eventually did. And it just, after it flashed, it came back. But the moral of the story is no matter what you're working on, I don't care how experienced you are or how many times you've been doing this, you're going to run into something that you go, oh shit. I just did. And you've got to have the wherewithal to know, okay, here's the steps I go through when I do this thing, right? How do I deal with that? And what do I do to correct it? I think that, simple things like test spots on anything, I wouldn't use. I mean, I've been watching a lot of the stuff you're doing with the industrial side of things, and it's very intriguing, some of the metals that you guys are working on stuff, because that's got a huge ramifications around the world. Rust is a huge issue. And suppressing that rust, which is what you're doing, you're not ever going to prevent it. You're just suppressing it for a period of time. That's got to be something you deal with on a very, very you got to have the knowledge behind you before you step into that, right? Either that or you're just encasing something in a sealant that you can't get it out. So I'm intrigued by that stuff. And I wonder how many people, if you took a poll, how many people would be honest to raise their hands of, okay, do you have inadequate training, to do what you're, because a lot of people, I'm going to figure it out,
Yeah. You don't want to figure it out on somebody's priceless piece of machinery, or one that could cost you, your company, your family, everybody, your entire livelihood. It's one thing to spray a car, and that could tank most shops, let's be honest.
So how do people get, obviously you guys have a process. So If I'm, just ABC detailer and I like, you know what? I like Markus Parsley. I like what I'm seeing from Joel Palm, and, seems like they're doing really cool. I hear they have a great reputation. How does somebody new in the business or newer that's looking to bring in IGL as their preferred product, how do they get engaged? How do they go through the certification process, especially with this new opportunity to do it online?
We have a series of representatives, but they can simply go to training@iglcoatingsusa.com, put an inquiry in there, and one of the reps will contact them. And we're taking a different approach. Sure, absolutely. We love the guy that just started up, just bought his first water hose. We'll absolutely talk to everybody at every level. The training is set up that way. And then if the guy is more experienced or that, then we'll sit down with an interview process, see where he's at, and then encourage him or her, whoever they are, let them know that they will have to go through the training syllabus, from A to B, A to Z.
Yep.
And when that happens, it's a testing process. You level through it. If you come to Lexington, we had a guy get up and walk out. He's like, no, not for me. There are things you have to learn, basic things you have to learn. It's not that difficult, I promise. I can do it. So it's not that it's that difficult. It's just that there are procedures involved. They can be done in a day and a half or however long it takes you to get through our modules. All of them will be reviewed. And then at the end, interview. And the interview doesn't say it's not a job hire type interview, but it's just a validation of you didn't have your child do this for you. We're gonna discuss it. Make sure you're comfortable. Make sure we're comfortable. Because we're going to have to answer questions, right? Ultimately, if I screw it up, I'm pointing at Joel Palm. He told me, and that dog's not going to hunt going forward with these types of products, because you're going to be involved with real businesses against real competing companies. There's some big players out there, and I'm just going to be 100% transparent. A lot of them are going, wow, what have you guys come up with? So that's really cool to be getting some of that backdoor feedback from my other life. Some of my old buddies are going, dude, what's going on over there?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So is that where so Mike Carlin, what is he a rep? Is that what his role is with IGL?
Yeah, he's a rep that we don't have actual defined. We're not that big where everything's defined that you're a specific region or you're specific thing. But he comes from farm country. He managed a $86 million a year company. He managed it. We went and toured that facility, saw what he was about. Some of the products that they used mirrored some of the products that we were developing. And so the conversation started and said, hey, how would you like to leave that big, cushy, high 6-digit a year job and come over here for what we call percentage? We don't pay on dollar amount, we pay on points, And it took him about 2 or 3 hours to review it. Said, wow, you guys are onto something. This is going to work.
That's awesome. So because Mike's a good guy, and I mean that's kind of the part of that is always having good people on there and going through that. And I think that I think it's kind of a point in time when you become legitimate is when you say, okay, I'm going to go do the training and I'm going to buy all into a system and I'm going to follow this path and go into. And I think people have a hard time making that leap when it's not really that big of a leap. I mean, there's some systems out there. Everybody has them. Whether we're talking about tools or whether we're talking about chemical companies or coatings or whatever it is, whatever your niche is, you got to kind of follow something, You can't, it's not, the environment isn't where you can just kind of figure it out. I mean, I look at the, I think in the back of my head, I see some of these posts and there's a guy sitting there and there's a cart next to him and he's got, 15 different brands of products. He's working on one car and you're like, man, you're really causing yourself a lot of work because when they test these things, they don't test, 15 different brands working together. They have a system, you work with that system and it's going to perform in a specific way. And everybody's got their secret sauce or their specific pad polish combination. But I think that people need to, I encourage people to do trainings no matter what. I think that's one of our big kicks for 2022 is people need to get out and do trainings. We're supporting a lot of them. Jody's going to be on site at one of them here next week. September, we're going to be on site with another couple of them. And I think the key to that is that, when you see people out in the forums and they're like, hey, what's your favorite pad and polish combination? I just want to send them a link to somebody's training facility and go learn.
Try.
Just
go learn.
Because you're going to find your favorite. It's kind of the age-old argument of DA versus forced rotation. Pick them both up, use them both. There's a place for everything. Go figure out your favorite pad and polish combination on that particular paint, right?
Yeah.
You got a specific paint, you got a specific thing. I mean, I own a 07 Duramax classic Chevy pickup with anybody that's worked on an 07 Chevy knows that the paint's so brittle if I flick it with my finger, it's going to chip. You got to use the different pad and polish combination on that than you do on Jody's BMW. Different paint, different stuff. So you got to learn and you got to train. And I just can't encourage people enough. I mean, like I said, I love the facility in Lexington. We need to get you guys to have a big Road FS poster in the back of that thing. But beyond that, it's a pretty good facility. It's missing a little, it's missing a little R. It's missing a little bit of R. We make it green and send it to you.
Make it green.
On the training aspect, I've been perusing Facebook during off-peak hours for the U.S., which is kind of an interesting time when everybody else is sleeping. I'm having an opportunity to take a look, and it's the age-old thing, but looking at it, I guess, from a different perspective now, being over here for a couple of weeks, and it's such a shame to watch guys worrying and we've talked about it. They're competing with Joe Blow. I gotta be like that guy right there. I gotta be like this. No, my papa told me, he said, hey, if you're gonna be a can picker upper, be the best can picker upper you can be and be proud of it. There is aim to wherever you're at. And that's one of the things that we stress. We tell people to be we take a break during the training and say, just write down on paper where you're at. Be honest with yourself so that you have a good foundation going forward. You're not willy-nilly running around to everybody. Like when you said the cart with all the different products on it, I'm a specialist in what? In what? There's no crime against having multiple products on the shelf. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is these guys, they're offering 4 different brands to a customer, and the customer standing there going, well, I came to you because I thought you were an expert.
Yeah. And customers don't understand the difference. They don't really care. They don't care if you're using, this coating or that coating, unless you can explain it to them and explain the benefits of everything. There's a benefit to a short-term coating versus a long-term coating. Somebody's selling the car. Somebody's they know they're going to sell it in 2 years. They're going to be that guy or gal that comes to you every 6 months for maintenance, and they know they're going to want to have it changed out. There's benefits to everything. And I think that the key to that is finding your place. That's what I see as well. As you see online, so many people struggling to figure out what their thing is. You see people that know it, man. They know what they've got. They know their lane, and they just kill it.
Buffing Queen knows metal.
Yeah, exactly. There's other people that Renee Douglas, man. She knows where she's at, and what she does,
metal.
and she does it with a smile on
Brett
her face.
Berry knows planes.
So the other people, though, they try to. I think too many people are copycatting the other guy or the other gal, and they're just so worried about everybody else that it's like you can watch it sometimes. You watch like Jamie Buchanan, man, that guy is in his own lane and he is killing it. You watch, he'll do something, and then 2 weeks later somebody's doing the exact same thing, and you're like, man, you got to do yourself. You can't do Jamie Buchanan. There's only one Jamie Buchanan.
There's only one Jamie.
And so you've got to be yourself. And I think that is, people struggle with that. knowing their market too. Like, Marcus, if you're in an area that's a farming market, man, go after that market. Don't try to be the Ferrari guy in the middle of corn country.
Exactly.
It doesn't
You're
work
gonna
that
do
way.
one.
And I use this guy a lot. Scott Masha is one of our good friends, and he is the #1 first and only certified RoadFS user. That we joke, that's a personal joke with him, but he is in a market where he's got 2 or 3 businesses, and he does really well with that. Everybody can't do that, but that's his market. He's got to do multiple things. It's the guys up in Alaska that do interiors. So I think that's the thing, is go get the training and then take that back to your market and figure out how you're going to implement that. It's not a copy paste. I can't go be, if I'm sitting next to Jody in a training and he's in California and I'm in Idaho, we're not going to do the same thing,
Right.
Yeah.
So figure out your market, go do what you're going to do, but don't be a copycat, and stop marketing to other detailers, please. Just stop marketing to other detailers.
When we started the trainings that we're doing now, and every single class, before the guys jump on because they're like, oh, I got to pay to have access to this product. And trust me, we've got a lot of our OG guys that said, dude, I'll just send you a check. Just send me the product. And I'm like, you got to come to Lexington. And now shortly there'll be an online version. But to a person, we interview them afterwards. And to a person, they go, we had no idea it was going to be this. This is not what we expected. We actually learned something. And we had one of our classes was really tough on me because it was my industry peers. Those are the guys I don't want to look like an idiot in front of. I can't BS them. I can't regale them with BS. Got to be class,
right?
Yeah.
And, there's quite a bit of PowerPoint involved in the first half day, and I expected to see, I expected tomatoes to be thrown at me and people asleep and all that. And what was really, really cool was everybody was wide awake. And my industry peers said, it doesn't matter that you were standing. This isn't for you, Marcus, but wow, this information is really something that we've been lacking. We need this.
Right.
It was really, that's when I called Joel and Jeff. I said, we got something.
Yeah. I've never been to a training where I haven't learned something. I don't care whose it was. I don't care if it's a 1-day training, a 5-day training. There's ones that I had no experience whatsoever. Richard and Carolyn Hutchings with the leather repair company, sitting through their training for 2 days. I was like, I need to video record this because the information is coming so fast, and just the knowledge that you were taking in on, and it was because it's something I had no knowledge of prior to that. I mean, I couldn't have told you the difference between the leathers. But I think people are like that when they go into a training. They need to absorb that, learn something. My goal is always to learn something. I don't care if I've sat through your training twice. I'm probably going to pick something else up that I didn't get the first time.
And if you don't get it from the front of the classroom, you might get it from the guy or gal sitting beside you.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
So I learn in every class that I teach. I learn.
Yes.
And it just, oftentimes I'll just sit down and they're like, what are you doing? I said, I've got to absorb what you just threw at me. That's what a piece of knowledge. Because we have engineers coming to our class. We're representative from the DOD. Large manufacturers, very large companies have sent individuals to that class in Lexington, which could be kind of intimidating from my point. And then I remind myself that I'm 58 years old and I'm the old guy in the room. So that kind of, it kind of helps me override some of my insecurities that I had. And now it's just the desire to share. And one of the things, and I wanted to bring this up, and I'm so glad you guys called. Not because you guys are great personalities, because you are. Do you
hear the insult while the compliment? That is an art.
That's good, man. I love it.
but no, truly, it was I was so glad to be contacted, because one thing that's lacking that we haven't put out there so much is that people need to be aware that IGL Coatings, other than, we're not talking, I know it says coatings at the end, but IGL is a true R&D company that work with a lot of major players out in the industry, not just the detailing industry, but the corrosion preventative industry on a world stage. And when I walked into the factory down here, I was just aghast. I couldn't believe, lab coats everywhere. Secretive. You've got a little scanner. You have to be authorized to go in certain areas, and they just, it's a real place where people are really doing real work. With a total factory system, a complete marketing team, and we fuss at them all the time, or used to, about things not being so sexy or being to this eye, and they're like, well, we're marketing on a world stage to a broader spectrum, and then to go in and see that and understand it. I didn't understand fully. I knew I knew all this information. I'd heard it. I've spoken to the folks, but to come and see that there is a true factory, there's 2 floors of office spaces where people are hustling and bustling about and making things happen, all the way down to the folks that are making sure that the labels are on just a certain way. Everything's tracked from A to Z. It's phenomenal, and that's one of the things that we're really trying to get out to our people as well, not just to everybody, but to our people, and make them realize that, hey, if you have a bad experience with this particular whatever that you have in your hand, whatever product it is, we need that information. Don't just go to Facebook and have a fit. You can do that if you want, but more importantly, put it in an email. You are a business after all, aren't you? Because it's what you told us when you came on board, right? Yep. And put it down in an email. Put your lot number down. There's, all that information's on the product. Every bottle that we send out, send that information back. It goes all the way to the CEO and founder of the company, who then traces everything all the way back down to the time and the minute that product was produced, the batches, labeling, who shipped it, when it was picked, where it sat in the warehouse, everything.
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing that especially business owners in America don't recognize, right? You see a little bottle of IGL coating. Mm-hmm. There is so much investment and energy and knowledge and planning and research that has gone into that to enable you to bring a product to your customer. Right. And it's easy to be critical on, well, I don't have this, I don't have that. So it's an added emphasis that you need to do your part. That if you're going to bring this product into your offering, that you invest in yourself, right? Yes. You be part of that continuing chain of success, so that you can provide that opportunity and that product for your customer and that great experience. And so I love that, because I think a lot of times we don't realize what goes on in the background to bring a product to market.
And I think part of that is just even as much knowledge as you can gain on a product, right? I can go to the factory, I can go through and pick a product, and I can learn everything there is about that. And people forget a couple of things about any product, and that is where to store it, the temperature to store it, and its shelf life. I've seen more often than not, somebody will make a comment of, I got this bottle of fill in the blank and it's all separated and it looks like crap. And I try to squirt it out and you're like, well, how old is it? And where do you have it stored? Do you have it stored in a shed in the direct sunlight in 100-degree weather? Is it 4 years old? I've had that happen to me with products where I knew I was doing something. I knew I was going to do this project and I purchased something. And then for whatever reason, something happened. And all of a sudden, shit went south, and I've got a 3-part system I had it happen on a bed liner where I had the 3-part system, and the actual part of that's the bed liner material, the rubber. I could see the bottle was already in sucking itself in, and I started shaking. I was like, "We're done. I need to order more of this because this is solid. If I put this in, we're done." So that's on me. That's not on the product company. That's on my knowledge and me not knowing what the shelf life of that product is.
Yeah. Yeah. We've taken a whole different approach, and we let folks know in Lexington through fact, through a one line or a slight paragraph that I regurgitate, but also through my personality. I walk out and let them know that we are treating what you're getting here differently than we did when you just sent an email and said, "Hey, can we have access to some of these other products?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one. This level here, we're not playing. This is business. If you want to be a part of this, this is great, but you're going to have to follow certain protocol. We're not going to tolerate any sideways, whatever we need you to be a business back to us, because this is a growing, living thing as we go as well. And through the structures of Joe LaPalm's business knowledge and of course the factory here and my years of government contracting, we know that there are going to be some skint knees along the way, and we need adults and business owners who are truly duly trained, licensed, insured, vetted, and all of those things to make that journey with us. And we're already excited, very excited that we've already got 4 or 5 guys. We've only had like 40 people come through the training classes for this these particular products. And but already, I want it may just be 4. I'm thinking 5, but anyway, 5 sounds good, right? That have landed contracts that have changed their lives. We have guys saying, "Hey, my LLC for my detail shop's not going to work for this, guys." We're good. We're glad. We're happy for you.
Right.
It might work for some, but for others, they're like, "Holy crap! I've got to really get on the stick." I've been, and that's exciting to watch people.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. It is exciting to watch people make good
That's
decisions
fun.
that change their life. I mean, I see it all the time. This week, we watched a guy sign the papers and own a building, which is a huge thing, And so you gotta take those wins, but you gotta think about them ahead of time. And I think that's, as we try to wrap this up, we could probably, like I said, with you guys, we could probably go for another 2 hours. But
it's almost 1 a.m. there, so we need to be respectful.
I think people, it's fun to watch them grow, but try to plan that stuff out ahead of time and understand whether an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp or whatever is going to work for you ahead of time. Watch these videos and talk to people that have been there, that have done a business, that can help you walk through this and get you set up and succeed from the very beginning, man. You don't want to go back and do it. That costs time and money, and that's going to, to go redo something is going to cost you twice as much. So,
right. Yeah.
So, man, we're so glad that you stayed up late for us. I mean, it's almost 1:45. So any last tidbits that you think are important that we should talk about?
Yeah. I think people need to realize that our industry, our detail world, from the guy that just bought his hose all the way up to the guy that just bought the building, right?
Yep.
I think they need to understand that it's become legitimized, and that hiding in the shadows and operating under the table is going to get you bit. They don't have to spend a ton of money right away, but it doesn't cost anything to get legitimized. Get legitimized. And that way you've got a foundation, and build that foundation as you go. Don't worry about running off and being the $1 million company right off the bat. If it's $1,000 a month part-time gig, make it a legitimate $1,000 a month part-time gig and make it solid so that you can build upon that.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. That's really good. So how do people get connected with you or a rep from IGL? Because you guys got cool things happening.
Yes, sir. They all the way from simply IGLcoatings.com to IGLCoatingsUSA.com. Either one of those work. It just takes longer if you go through the mothership, but IGL Training at IGLCoatingsUSA.com is a great place to start, or the IGL Coatings USA standard.com. That,
Yep.
any of those, but email traffic works better. That way we've got a paper trail.
Yeah, that's
perfect.
awesome.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for everybody for watching us. Thank you again for staying up late. Always love talking to you. Hope you have safe travels on your way back whenever you guys decide to part the country.
Yep, and thank you guys.
We're at midnight tomorrow night. We fly out of here.
Awesome.
Fun. Well, thank you for your time, man. We always love the chat, love watching what you guys are doing. Those of you guys that are tuned in, please remember, like, share, and subscribe. And we will check you guys same time, just next week. See ya.
Guys, let's talk about that banner sometime.
Okay,
right,
we'll do it.
we'll
do it. Like a big green one.
That's right. You have a great night, man.
All right. Take care, guys.
See ya.